Hey, everybody, this is Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh, and that guy right there is...
I am Chris.
And Chris, he always is. How you doing tonight, Chris?
I'm doing amazing. Doing great. I don't know. I don't really have a quick interlude for you, but how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Doing okay. And like a good okay, not just like, okay. I'm doing okay.
I got a nap in earlier, so I'm ready for
I did too.
A big show, if you will.
I did too. Yeah.
It's
naps are good. How long was your nap?
Almost 2 hours.
Okay, so you just fell asleep.
A little over an hour and a half.
No, you just fell asleep. Okay, cool.
Alarm set.
I slept about as long as I always sleep, and that was about 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And by always sleep, I mean I wake up like every 15 minutes at night. I have some sort of sleeping disorder. Anyways, let's move on to... We're here to talk about the State of the Union AFC edition. On this part of this two-parter episode, it's going to be Megasode. Anyways, yeah, let's, as we always like to do, let's kick off with the news. Wait, but before you start, next week, you know what next week is? At this time next week, you know it's going to be happening in exactly 1 week from us recording this.
My Dallas Cowboys will be playing the defending champion.
Will be getting their butts kicked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, yes.
Well, we'll see.
I hope not, but I think realistically that's what's going to happen.
I think there's going to be a lot of hype around the game, and maybe if we're lucky, we'll get some offensive fireworks, and Dallas will probably lose.
I'm excited for it, man. I'm not, what sucks is that we record on Thursday nights, and so I'm going to have to be like, hey, that over here. Nope, we're recording. Don't watch the computer.
Remember the first
I see what you're doing over there.
Remember the first season? Yeah, right. Streaming the first seasons, so that would even throw another wrinkle into it, trying to stream whilst watching. And it looks like you're... Well, anyway, I don't want to get into work talk, but yeah, let's roll with the news.
Yes, let us roll with some news. Why don't you start us off with this news, and I'll just kind of jump in if I see fit, I guess.
Irv Smith for the Vikings, tight end, underwent surgery, meniscus, out 4 to 5 months, virtually ending his season. Vikings subsequently trade for Chris Herndon from the Jets, a tight end that had a little bit of buzz about 2 years ago. N'Keal Harry was placed on the IR, minimum 3 weeks for shoulder. Throw in T.Y. I'll get to that in a second. My apologies. Cam Newton got cut. It feels like old news to me because we do once a week. But yeah, Cam Newton got cut.
Can I stop you right there?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
How do we feel about especially the tight ends? The tight ends in New England. How do we feel about them now that Cam Newton's not there?
This has to only help any passing option.
Yeah.
in New England. I'm not saying go out and grab the passing options, the fantasy options in New England. I'm just saying. This only helps.
You know what I think really, and we'll talk about it here in a second. I think it really helps one of the running backs, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Once you keep going with that news.
Sounds good. Quadri Ollis, this is kind of one you pulled up right before the show, although it was 4 hours old or so. Quadri Olson for the Atlanta Falcons running back was cut and subsequently replaced by Wayne Gallman, who had been cut by the Niners a couple days ago. So I told you this, Josh, off air, or when you brought it up to me, I commented, I was like, I mentioned in the chat of our Discord, by the way, join our Discord, link below.
Great source for news. Chris has been really plugging away at that, and I chime in when I can, and some of our other members do as well.
Yep, and I think that fire is gonna be stoked when the regular season starts. Let's be honest. So Wayne Gallman, I saw that blurb about him getting cut by the Niners, and I was like, well, I don't know if this is newsworthy on a kind of redraft casual league perspective, but I went and piped in on the chat. Didn't get a ton of feedback, but it stuck in the back of my brain. And then you brought this up tonight. I think it's significant because Mike Davis for Atlanta is no spring chicken. I'll put it that way.
He's also not old either. He's like 27, 28.
Mike Davis?
Yeah,
I would guess 28.
Anyway,
in running back to age, that's 172.
Wow. Roughly.
Give or take.
So my thing is that this actually Mike Davis really kind of struggled with short yardage things last year. We are both correct. He is 28.
Nice.
From Georgia too. Didn't know that. like I said, Mike Davis kind of struggled with short yardage things last year for the Panthers. Some of that could have been their offensive line, but yeah, he's not really much of a power back. And I'm not saying that Gallman is either, but he is certainly, at least from his time with the Giants, has shown that he can convert like a first and goal, like 1 yard to, like goal to go sort of thing.
Yeah, despite being your typical like 6'2", 200 dude, he's actually got a bit of a nose for the end zone. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Really
So
does.
I mean, he could be touchdown. He could be the vulture to Mike Davis there.
My last add-on would be that Davis not only, as you put it, struggled in short yardage situations. I think he just struggled as a whole, and it was just due to wear and tear, which is part of the running back position.
Perhaps.
So Gallman or whomever else is back there, we'll see.
Not much of anyone.
Yeah, exactly. In kind of the same vein, Darrington Evans, running back for the Tennessee Titans, was placed on IR for his knee, so minimum 3 weeks. Look at that depth chart. The name that comes to mind for me is McNichols still there, because he was kind of the backup last year.
I believe so.
Yeah, so let's keep an eye on that. Further news. This isn't really terribly fantasy relevant. I mean, maybe weather, but the Saints.
Oh, McNichols is also out too. You know what that means is that this is according to ESPN's depth chart here, which is usually pretty up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Micaiah Sargent, Go Hawks, is now in the number 2 behind Derrick Henry.
Good name. I did not know that name. Great.
Yeah, he's a rookie from straight off the Iowa Hawkeyes. He's kind of more of a. He didn't look like that big of a back. He's definitely not like a mountain like Derrick Henry.
Well, they always
but
have
he can
kind of
catch, he can run.
there.
He's just kind of.
I feel like the second guy is always kind of a hybrid, kind of a scat back, a receiving back.
Darrington Evans is more mountain-esque, like Derrick Henry. Than
no, I meant Iowa, but anyway. So
it depends.
Hurricane Ida hit New Orleans. I'm sorry, that's old. They weren't ready. Here it is. It'll be played in
Jacksonville.
God bless it. Okay, that was old too. Anyway, Jacksonville. Thank you. That's all I need to say about that. My apologies.
And it's going to be a home game for the Saints, but
exactly.
Yeah, they were talking about doing it in Dallas. I'm just like, okay, so now you've, instead of moving it, is there not like a college stadium that you can play it at or something? Now you're moving it 3 states away.
Well,
barely 3 states away.
Weekend. Technically college is kicking off tonight.
Go
Thursday.
Hawks.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
started last week actually.
Let's get the nose done though. That's old Barkley.
Did you say nose? Do we need to get the nose done?
Is that a there's the Saints thing I wanted. My apologies. Kind of touched on Ty earlier. Ty underwent surgery to relieve a neck injury. As of now, missing a minimum 3 weeks. We'll see. Me and Josh are a little concerned as far as his career goes, but we'll see. Colts activated Carson Wentz and center Ryan Kelly, wide receiver Zach Pascal from the reserve COVID-19 list. All that has to be said there. That was just protocol, really. Gio, this is a little blip on the radar, who hasn't been spotted at practice today, is dealing with a mild high ankle sprain. I don't know. I mean, high ankle sprain kind of worries me.
Yeah, I don't think there's a mild or a severe. I think there's just
the first game.
Sprain.
And that's the game that's a week away. So remember, they play on Thursday. So as we just mentioned, Ron Rivera very confident Curtis Samuel will play week 1. That's getting close to go time. We'll see. CD for the Cowboys. CD Lamb is activated off the COVID list. More protocol there. Galladay returns to practice. Hamstring. That's very significant in my opinion. We'll see. Maybe he was just kind of laying low, like he likes to do. I'm kind of hurt. I'm kind of not. Go ahead.
Honestly, what is your opinion on Kenny Galladay? Like, this newest hamstring injury is just I'm out. I don't want him on my team. I don't want him on any fantasy team. I mean, obviously, when the price becomes right, yeah, I'll draft him. But I mean, his ADP is what, like in the 7th round or something like that now because of this. But I kind of want to stay away from it because it's just one thing after another with this guy. He's in a really crowded wide receiving core, not a very good quarterback, not a very good offensive line.
When you look at his career numbers, one could draw the conclusion that it's a flash in the pan type of thing. and a lot of injuries, a lot of
what round did I say?
I'm sorry, what? What round?
What round did I say?
7th?
Yep, yeah, it's 703.
Yeah, 703. Wide receiver 29. Okay, now you're starting to get me a little interested.
No, he's going to have to hit like the 8th or 9th. Or it depends on how the draft goes.
I said start. I did say start too. As you said, put my feet to the fire. I'll say I would take Kenny Golladay as a top 36 wide receiver by the 8th. I'll take him by the 8th. I think he's still a top 36 guy.
Kenny Golladay or Odell Beckham?
Kenny
Golladay or Jamar Chase?
Ugh. Golladay.
Golladay for me. Kenny Golladay or Jerry Jeudy?
Golladay.
Jeudy for me. Kenny Golladay or Antonio Brown? The last one.
Golladay.
Brown for me.
It's all in that same area, though. I got you. We're at the 7 picks.
Jeudy and Beckham were going. Jeudy and Beckham were going ahead of Golladay, and Chase and Brown are right behind him. So that's just I kind of hit the above and below.
Yeah, there you go.
We're close. We're close on those opinions. So okay.
Last bit of news of probably the greatest variety is Barkley has a strong chance to play Week 1. That is Saquon Barkley.
From what I read, that he's taking full contact in practice. So, yeah, it looks like he's good to go.
You practice, you play. And that's the news. Back to you, Josh.
So we're here to talk about the State of the Union, and we're starting with the AFC because A starts before N, and my brain is weird, and it likes things alphabetical in a particular order. And we're going to start with the AFC North, because that's the very top of the compass, and we're going to go clockwise around it because, once again, brain weird. Before we start, though, we are all of this depth chart thing is presumed health, a season-long health, and also we like to use the half PPR scoring format. It kind of bridges that gap between full and non, and yeah, I mean, we don't say it enough, so that's just the warning. It's half PPR. I will certainly be talking about points for players, points scored, points will be scored, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you kick us off, Chris?
AFC North, let's start with the Bengals. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's off the quarterback one radar for me in single quarterback leagues, but he's probably still a must draft in Superflex leagues. While I expect him to make a leap kind of on the field in real life, given his positional value in single quarterback leagues, do not reach for him. Joe Mixon should be one of the few bell cows remaining in the league in 2021. Career averages of 3.2 targets per game, 16.2 carries per game for his career. Almost all of that with Giovanni Bernard in the way, right? So he should be good to go. And he also should have fresh legs coming off. I believe he was out with injury for a while last year. The receivers are a little murky with Jamar Chase kind of separating himself in a bad way in the offseason. The chemistry with Higgins is hard to deny, along with Tyler Boyd. Both of those guys should get decent volume in a pass-heavy attack with a bad defense that's going to be behind quite a bit. And, yes, a bad O-line also, but I think they can mitigate some of that with some volume. Higgins, while no Randy Moss, Bob Hayes, or Anquan Bolden, type of rookie season, got over 900 yards, started 14 of the 16 games that he played, and I think that's saying something for rookie. Okay. On to the Browns. I like Baker Mayfield to take a leap in real life, so he should be a decent value for those waiting on quarterback in a single quarterback league, waiting till late for a quarterback. A decent dart to throw. The backfield is shared, but not murky at all, really. We've got Chubb should be among the league's most efficient on the ground, and Hunt's role is secure and in the RB2 range easily. Unfortunately, that caps Chubb's value through the air, but his talent, opportunity share, and efficiency will separate him from the low-end RB1s to be more of a mid to top RB1. Hunt also eclipsed 200 carries and 11 total touchdowns. Hunt almost eclipsed 200 carries and did get 11 total touchdowns, while Chubb finished as the RB9 and Hunt finished as the RB10 in fantasy. These two should be dynamic for at least one more season together. I like the value you can find with OBJ in the 6th, but I'm staying away from Jarvis Landry and the other receivers, generally speaking, in a run-heavy attack. Similar story with the tight ends. There's 3 names, and when you have 3, I don't feel like you have one. And again, it's a run-heavy attack. And
Let's go back to last season.
Right. David Njoku, Austin Hooper, and Harrison Bryant are the only names to mention there. But again, run heavy tackle, just steering clear of there. Yeah, go right ahead.
Can I interject here real quick? Sorry.
Anyway.
I feel like there's one name that you left out that I really think that people need to at least have in the back of their brain, if not like last pick of the draft, like shot in the dark, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Donovan Peoples-Jones has gotten a lot of good buzz in camp and in preseason games. If you think Baker Mayfield's going to take a step forward this year, this guy is going to help him do it. So don't sleep on this guy. Take him real late. He's more or less going undrafted. I think he is going undrafted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And either get him in with your very last pick or pick him up after week 1. He might even not even like you might be fighting for him after week 1. I'm not saying that that's going to be a real thing, but it's a possibility. Don't sleep on DPJ. Keep going, man. Go.
That was it for the Browns. Steelers. Big Ben to me isn't worth the risk in single quarterback leagues, but should be probably a low in QB2 and Superflex if you want to be conservative. Mm-hmm. Perhaps he proves me wrong, but Ben is not the piece I want from this offense. Najee Harris should be another rookie runner to take the league by storm, so to speak. While there's been some scuttlebutt about the state of their O-line, I see Pittsburgh as an elite franchise capable of taking a few draft picks, which is exactly what they got on the O-line, and coaching them up and pairing them with a potent offense and an elite defense. So,
okay,
volume. After some consternation, I ended up with Deontay being my highest ranked Steeler wideout, followed by Juju, then Claypool. Deontay has averages 118 targets per year in his young two-year career, and only one game missed. So there's some reliability there. Let's just hope he can curb the drops and maybe Ben's a bit more healthy. But I still kind of err towards Juju. I feel there's value to be had there with wide receiver positions, but maybe the cheaper guy is the way to go. So maybe that's why I'm kind of a Juju fan there, because value and cost. On to the Ravens. Lamar has to show me something through the air this year to make me more of a believer in him on the field. But in fantasy, he has built-in reliability because of the way quarterback fantasy scoring is as it relates to running quarterbacks. So a solid mid to late round target at QB. So solidly in that QB1 territory. The Gus bus is pulling out of the station, and I'm driving it. No, I'm just kidding. But Gus Edwards has been presented with an opportunity, given the catastrophe that happened to Dobbins. I still feel like there's a receiving back to be mentioned here. Justice Hill is the one to mention. I really kind of have him off my radar. I understand Edwards isn't going to catch the ball a ton, but I just feel like Edwards is the one that you want. Because I even feel that when Dobbins was healthy, his receiving work wasn't like amazing,
Yep.
I love this. I love Gus Edwards' value, even given his rising ADP as of the writing of these notes and the recording of this show. The running back 29 and the 603. So it was third pick of the 6th round, running back 29. Right off the top of my head, I feel he's probably higher than 29 for me at running back.
He's going to be going higher than that in drafts.
Anyways. I know, yeah. We'll see where it ends up. I mean, there's probably a breaking point.
I'm guessing like a 4th round, and maybe in the right draft he will go in the 6th round. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm interjecting.
I don't feel too comfortable with 4th, but we'll keep our eye on it for sure. I think he complements Lamar well on the ground, and there should be scoring opportunities galore in this offense. I'm staying away from these wide receivers. See the Lamar comments above, but also there's a lot
and they're all hurt too,
and they're all hurt exactly. Rashad Bateman, I think, is out, but Hollywood is out. So, Bateman's on the IR, so at least 3 weeks. That leaves us with Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is, usually worth the price of admission that you have to pay up to get him, but I tend to be if I don't get one of the top 2 or 3, I tend to punt on tight end, so I don't end up owning a lot of Andrews. But all the things we said about the wide receivers, you can kind of throw that out the window because he is more or less a wide receiver 1. He's Lamar's favorite target. He'll be just fine. That is that division. That is the AFC North.
We didn't mention the fact that Rashad Perryman has been released by the Detroit Lions again. Yes. Therefore, solidifying Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyrell Williams as potential. Probably should get drafted above Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah,
guys to target in late in drafts.
That's probably fair. Yeah. They're not sexy names, but Volume's got to be there to some extent.
Yep, even with Jared Goff, but I mean, behind that offensive line there, like it might be a marginal improvement for Goff going to Lions. We'll talk about that more later. Anyways, let's move on to the AFC East. You know who's in the AFC East? The Buffalo Bills. Their quarterback, of course, is Josh Allen. He was the quarterback one last year. Can he do it again this year? He has weapons. He's got the legs. Can his accuracy percentage hold up? Time will tell. He's getting drafted as like the QB3 this year, so you're gonna have to pay up for him. Running backs, Devin Singletary looks to be the RB1. There's been a lot of glowing reports about Devin Singletary here.
Wow.
Maybe it's and Zach Moss, he was injured in this preseason, and even when he has played in the week 2 and 3 of the preseason, he was really not all that effective. So it looks like Singletary is the guy for right now. At least he's going to be at the bare minimum. He's going to be the guy, or at least it looks like he's going to be the guy in between the 20s. Moss is going to get work. So is Matt Breida. How much are they going to get? I don't know. I have it written down that I'm going to avoid this backfield if possible. I'm really warming up to Singletary. I'm not in love with him.
Price withstanding, like.
Yeah.
I mean, I have him in a dynasty league, so it's like I already have him, so I have to do nothing to have him. So it's
Singletary?
So it's positive news, but man, I just don't know. It's a tough backfield to figure out.
It definitely is. On to the wide receiver. Stephon Diggs he is the wide receiver 1 for the Buffalo Bills, of course, in case you've been living under a rock in a cave for the last year. But he was the wide receiver 3 last year, in part to, I'm not sure if he was the one that helped Josh Allen or if Josh Allen helped him. I don't know which. Is probably a symbiotic relationship there. But yeah, you can look forward to him being really productive this season, assuming that his health stands. Emmanuel Sanders has secured his role as the wide receiver 2 opposite of Stephon Diggs. I really thought it was going to be my boy Gabe Davis. He has slipped down all the way to wide receiver 70. He's the second to last wide receiver coming off the board according to PFF. Or not PFF, but Fantasy Football
ADP.
Calculator.
Yeah.
Cole Beasley is a slot guy. I'm not going to really say much about Cole Beasley. He'll have his games, but good luck guessing when they are. Dawson Knox, he was a tight end 33 last season. He did miss 4 games though, but he only scored more than 7 points twice last year. Don't draft Dawson Knox. Let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. Tua is their quarterback, and he is my quarterback 15. He is Chris's quarterback 16. I definitely think that Tua will be in many QB streamer discussions this year.
Yep.
And if it weren't for his starting schedule, which is the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills, I would probably have him higher ranked, but I can't recommend anyone drafting him when he's going up against the Patriots, even though the Patriots are going to be seeing Stephon Gilmore for week 1 at least. So maybe Tua needs to get bumped just a little bit higher. I'm not really sure. On to the Dolphins running backs here. It's Myles Gaskin. He ended up as the RB27 last season. He probably could have finished higher, but he did miss 5 games. Malcolm Brown, he's their free agent signer, and I'm like, if I'm gonna draft a non-Gaskin Dolphins running back, I'm gonna draft Dalvin Ahmed. Both Ahmed and Brown will spell Gaskin at point. How much and how often is unknown. Well, it looks like Gaskin's going to get the majority of that workload, but we'll see. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, hopefully. On to the wide receivers, Devonte Parker. I feel like he's just like vanilla ice cream from Dairy Queen. I think once Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle really get going, Will Fuller, obviously, he's going to miss week 1 from his suspension hailing back to last season. But I really liked what I saw from Fuller. We've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. I like Jalen Waddle's been getting a lot of positive buzz in camp and preseason, and I just don't think that Devonte Parker is really all that talented. He's had good times, but it's been very limited for him. On to the tight end, Mike Gesicki. Chris and I both really kind of liked Gesicki last year, and this year, we both still kind of like him. I mean, he's both of our tight end 8s, and according to I keep saying PFF, Still not Pro Football Focus. It is still Fantasy Football Calculator. He is the number 10 tight end off the board, tied with Robert Tonyan for the last pick of the 8th round.
Okay.
I'm just gonna do a real quick side note here, and if the tight end 10 is coming off in the 8th round, I think I may need to start thinking about drafting a tight end earlier. What do you think?
It all depends on where they fall. Like, I mean,
obviously it depends on how the draft goes.
First thing
it
that comes
always
to mind
depends on how the draft goes.
If a Kittle falls. Like, if a Kittle falls like the 4th, I think that's a no-brainer. If like a Tonyan, yeah, I'm okay with a tight end in the 8th. If I can get my guy, like my Tonyan or my Logan Thomas. Well, I don't think I have to get to Logan Thomas that early.
I was going earlier than that.
Logan Thomas is?
Mm-hmm.
Like the 7th?
Something like that.
Yeah, I'll wait, probably.
He's going in the 609. Logan Thomas, 7th tight end off the board.
Woo.
Yeah.
Rich. That's getting a little rich.
That's real rich. Let's move on to the New England Patriots, where I didn't. Sorry to cut you off there. Did you have anything else to say? Okay. No. Let's move on to the New England Patriots, where I have Cam Newton. I don't expect Cam Newton to be the starter for long, and he's not going to be starting at all because the Patriots released him, and it's now Mac Jones as their quarterback. And so what we were talking about earlier in the news, I'm going to talk about now. I think this really helps Damian Harris. He finished as the RB33 last season. He did miss the first 3 in the last 3 games. He's not much of a pass catcher, but that's James White's role. We all know that's it. James White will have his games. That's fine. And Damian Harris, he only scored, I think it's only like 2 or 3 touchdowns last season. That's because Cam Newton was vulturing all of them. He had something like 20 rushes inside the 5 last year. And that's kind of amazing considering how bad the Patriots were on offense last year. I love Damian Harris. I think he'd easily be a top 24 running back this season. He, like I mentioned, he's not a pass catcher, but he's going to get it all done on the ground. Ramondre Stevenson, though, he is a legitimate threat to Damian Harris, and he will be a thorn in the side for Harris managers. He's the 4th round rookie out of Oklahoma, in case you have forgotten. And we've already talked about this in the past, but the Patriots did trade away Sony Michel, so I think that really kind of solidifies this backfield a little bit more between these 3 guys. I'm sure there's going to be a random Rex Burkhead-esque some person that comes in like week 5 and runs for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, we got to pick up this Rex Burkhead-esque person." Blah blah blah.
This guy off the street. He was selling snow cones a week ago. We're the Patriots.
Yeah, exactly. On to these wide receivers. We've talked about this alley of clowns before. Neither Chris nor I are all that interested in them, even with Mac Jones being their quarterback now. It's kind of more of a wait and see. Yeah, someone could easily emerge as a wide receiver with fantasy relevance, but until then, I'm not drafting any of them. And those names would be, just in case anyone's interested, Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers, and Kendrick Bourne. Yawn. On to the tight ends, which is really the meat and potatoes of what's going to be the soft. Well, maybe the potatoes and the running game would probably be the meat. But we're going to start with Jonnu Smith because he is the first tight end coming off the board according to ADP, and he is going as the tight end 14. And for those who are dead set on Jonnu being fantasy relevant this year, I hope I'm wrong for your sake. But I much rather prefer Hunter Henry. We've talked about this in the past. But if the Patriots are really going to be running this 12 personnel set, like anyone who knows anything about the Patriots' current roster is expecting them to do, they both could be fantasy relevant. And Hunter Henry could easily be a steal. Hunter Henry is going in the 14th round. It's more or less the last positional pick of you're going to make.
Yeah, last position. Well
said.
That's
crazy. Let's move on to the Jets, though. We're not here to go super deep on these guys. Zach Wilson, he's a late round QB. Chris and I are definitely coming around on. I mean, would we actually draft him? I'm not. According to ADP, he's a quarterback 26 off the board, which doesn't exactly instill a lot of confidence in me. But he does get the Panthers in week 1, and they were not a very good defense last year, Chris.
Not very good. Yeah.
That's very good. So, maybe Zach Wilson, especially in a 2-quarterback league, you might want to maybe consider that. But we'll talk about that more next week in our matchup show, our first one of the year, actually.
Let's go.
Let's move on to the New York Jets running back in this hot mess of, oh my God, Michael Carter. You make me cry. Tevin Coleman looks to be the guy. Coleman's best season was 3 years ago, though, where he had 1,076 scrimmage yards and 9 total touchdowns. So that was with the Atlanta Falcons, though. He hasn't really done much since, mainly because he's been on the 49ers and because of injury last year.
Yep.
He is RB 51 coming off the board at the 111. That's not bad. That's not bad value right there. He is going 4+ rounds later than Michael Carter. And if Coleman is really going to be the primary back, at least to start the season,
at least
in the 11th round, oh my God, I guess so, man. I guess so. I mean, I'm going to click that draft button and then vomit, but I guess I'm going to do it. 11th round, starting running back. Why not, I guess.
What's this? This
Ty
is my
Johnson,
fantasy
he's
football
the
trash
guy.
Can.
I'm sorry, what's that?
This is my fantasy football trash can to vomit in.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I go this year.
Ty Johnson, he's currently listed as the second string running back. I don't care. Michael Carter, if you're really going to be starting as the third running back on this roster, you're going at the 705. No thanks, I guess. No thanks. Corey Davis, all these glowing reports coming out of camp and his with practice and in preseason games and his connection with Zach Wilson. He looks pretty legit, man. I don't have him where he's going, but pretty legit. Let me look it up.
I just happen to have receivers pulled up right here. I got it. Give me a sec.
He is going at the 904 and wide receiver 40 off the board.
There you go.
Sign me up.
Yep.
Crowder. This is. I mean, he's hurt. He has a little groin injury at the moment. I love Jameson Crowder. I've been on Jameson Crowder for years. It is a crime is being committed here, Chris. A crime is being committed that he is going undrafted. Draft Jameson Crowder. If you are in any sort of, if you are in a quarter point per reception league, draft Jameson Crowder. He is going to get targets. He has really excelled in this preseason outside of this groin injury because he's just a pro. He's not that great, but he might be one of the best pure. He might be one of the best pure slot receivers in the league, and no one is ever talking about him, ever.
Yeah. I think a lot of folks have come around to the idea that I think I had it probably during draft season that New York was trending towards more of a pass-happy attack. Mm-hmm. Not pass-happy. Maybe that's too strong, but go ahead. Yeah.
A little bit more passing than we initially thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Zach's going to.
I used ESPN's depth chart thing for all my teams here because they usually get updated PDQ and they're usually pretty accurate. They had Keelan Cole listed as wide receiver 3. I don't know if that's actually accurate. I really think it's going to be Elijah Moore and Tyler Kroft as their tight end. I could care less.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
I use our lads for depth charts. Our lads.
I looked at them. There's one. We'll get to it in a second. But there was one where I looked at 3 different websites and it was all the same one. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe you have the AFC South, the home of my Colts. Even though they're in a northern state.
Yeah. So my Texans coverage is going to be pretty brief. I'm going to put that out there on a limb.
Don't draft any of them.
Yeah, let me finish. It would appear the Texans are going to keep Watson on the active 53, not the game day active roster. That's 2 different things, folks. You only take like 46 or 47 game day out of your 53. But by keeping the 53, I assume they're thinking they can trade him at the drop of a hat. There's no other reason to have him on that 53, but it appears that's what they're doing so far.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
No, I'm almost done. Because of this, outside of Cooks, I want no part of this offense. David Johnson, and I double-checked this before making my notes. David Johnson is listed as a 3rd string, and his ADP is unreasonably high at RB40 in the 903. We've literally thrown out 2 or 3 names at maybe different positions in the 8th, 9th, and 10th round that we'd much rather have. So, again, Cooks, yes, there's got to be some volume there. Cooks is like almost guaranteed 1,000 yards every year. But other than that, stay away from the Houston Texans. Go ahead, Josh.
2 things real quick. According to ESPN, and this is just, it's all subjective, but objective.
I always get him confused.
Anyways.
You're asking the wrong guy.
Yep, I always get him confused. But according to this, Mark Ingram, and this is the ESPN, Mark Ingram is 1, David Johnson 2nd, Philip Lindsay 3rd. That's not right. That is definitely not right. Definitely not.
I'm sorry, repeat that. David Johnson was 3rd?
No, he was 2nd, and Philip Lindsay was 3rd.
Well, it could have changed. That's fair. Or wrong side.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, like, expound upon your Deshaun Watson thing is that from an article that I read earlier this week, once again, I need to just start writing all these notes down, but in a sense that it sounds like the Texans are willing to, they're just happy with, him just being on their roster until they find the deal that they want.
Yeah. There's been a lot of pretty much
they're in a rock and a hard place
about
situation.
The Dolphins being interested. I almost brought it up during the Tua conversation, but I didn't want to run long.
I don't believe
it is what it is. But also, something I heard is there's some stipulations in trades where they want protected draft picks, and teams aren't willing to give them that because they're not only are they asking for them to be protected, they're asking for like 3 firsts and 2 seconds or something insane like that. Like
that's no. Because they're scared of his legal problems.
This stalemate is probably going to drag out
all season.
Yeah, you can't draft these guys except for maybe Cooks, just based solely on volume and his consistency throughout his career. Onward and upward. Colts. Carson Wentz appears to have his job secure, assuming health. In fact, we read an update at the beginning that more or less is pointing the direction he might be okay to go week 1. We'll see. The problem with Wentz, as it usually is he comes in the season. Well, okay, that's an old note. He's no longer, quote, in doubt. But, I don't know. Comes back to a lot of the AFC I've been talking about tonight is just the quarterback. I'm not willing to take the chance on him in a single quarterback league. On to the running backs. Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines have their roles secured. We'll have to see how much Mack factors in, but Taylor should be in the RB1 territory. Given the offensive line, the run-heavy scheme, and the elite defense, while Hines should be in the flex territory and remains one of the league's better receiving backs. T.Y. Hilton, we didn't even need to go there. Michael Pittman should be the name to watch. Sorry, T.Y. It was just, we read your injury stuff at the beginning, and it's just...
Don't sleep on Paris Campbell.
That's a good one. That's a good one to mention. Yeah, you're full of the sleepers tonight. Good call. On to the Jags. Trevor Lawrence looked good in preseason. Probably not worth his...
Chris,
Go ahead.
What about all the Colts tight ends?
Yeah, no. Doyle is literally at the top.
Going. My bad. I just want to do that voice.
I actually went through it's one of those... I do like where our shows take us in terms of research. I feel like I always learn something, and I looked up Doyle's stats, and I was like, oh, that's why he's been underwhelming. Yeah. He had that one decent year of like 700 yards, whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Trevor Lawrence looked good in preseason. Probably not worth his current ADP in single quarterback leagues, but should be able to support most of these fantasy assets. James Robinson should be getting another opportunity like he did in 2020 since he's the incumbent, and of course Travis Etienne is out for the year. I definitely need to update my rankings since that news. Josh and I also believe that Laviska Shenault will benefit from the Etienne injury as he gets more inside slot looks and fits that kind of gadget role that the head coach was kind of looking for, although there might be an actual slight injury to mention about Shenault that just came to mind. Chark seems to be the leader. TJ Chark seems to be the leader in ADP, and many like him being the wide receiver 1/outside guy, but I'm just leaning more towards the value with Shenault and what he's going to get out of the slot there.
Real quick.
But I like Marvin Jones' value much more as a late upside play.
Yes.
Go ahead real quick with the was that what you were going to say?
Nope, I was going to add something else.
Yeah.
Week 1, the Trevor Lawrence goes up against the really bad Texans defense. Maybe not a bad, like you just completely punted on quarterback. Maybe not.
He's right at that QB 12 like territory, right, or 13 maybe, like right at that when you.
Is that where he's going? Oh yeah, nope, never mind.
Right when you run out of quote QB 1s, it's like he's right there, and I'm like, I can think of a couple, at least 2 or 3 guys that I should put in that 12-13 category.
Keep going.
Yep.
Do it.
Just mentioned Marvin Jones. We're good there. On to the Titans. Tannehill continues to be undervalued despite 2 solid seasons on top 12 in fantasy. Look to grab him at a value if you're waiting on QB. Not much to say about Derrick Henry other than that me and Josh are a bit lower than consensus due to all the miles on his tires. Do yourself a favor and just check out his high school stats too. It's insane. I'm not going to go into that. Yeah, it's nuts, dude. Like nuts. Like 200 or 300 carries. Like they don't even play that many games. Maybe it was just a meme. Maybe it's just a blurb I saw on Twitter. I don't know, but it was like, are you serious?
He's going to break down at some point. And you know what? It's one of those guys I'd rather be out a year early than a year too late.
Exactly. That's exactly why I mentioned what I did there about us being lower than consensus. A.J. Brown is locked and loaded as a top fantasy wideout despite being on a run-heavy attack due to his efficiency and his big playability. That's a 17.4 yards per catch career, 19 career touchdowns. Wow. I also expect them to lean a little bit more in the pass this year, given some of my Derrick Henry, I wouldn't say hate. That's too strong a word. Thank you. Very well said. Anthony Ferkser is a late round tight end flyer that we like.
Yes.
He managed 53 targets and a 73.6% catch rate in a part-time role behind Johnny Smith. So I know those aren't eye-popping stats, but we're picking it. You know, we're throwing tight end darts here. 15, 16. You know, like he's basically free. That is the AFC. Am I correct? No, I'm south. You're west. South. Yeah, you're west.
I am west. West side. God, remember that
remember the
stuff?
compass, folks.
Anyways.
Remember the compass. Compass.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Let's
at
start, of course, alphabetically with the Denver Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater has earned the starting job, and I think ultimately that this is best for the Denver wide receivers. He doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns. He really averages about 1 touchdown pass per game. Doesn't mean that can't change, but it's a pretty long history, folks.
Yep.
He did almost succeed in making Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel all top 25 wide receivers last year. Mm-hmm. Curtis Samuel obviously being wide receiver number 26. So that gives me some love for Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant. Go Hawks. We'll talk about him here in a second. Let's move on to the running backs here real quick. Javonte Williams, as I'm calling him, young Melvin Gordon. I love Williams' potential and I would love him more if the older version of himself weren't there. And that, of course, is Melvin Gordon, which is old Javonte Williams. I loved Melly earlier in his career, but that's been a couple years from now, or that was a couple years ago, and he has, and this is courtesy of a different show. I full disclosure, I do listen to the only other fantasy football show I do listen to is Fantasy Football Weekly with Church and those guys, and this is courtesy of them. And that Melvin Gordon has hit that magical 1,200 carry mark where running backs typically fall off a cliff as far as production wise. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't in that much onto Melvin Gordon anyways. Not early before I heard that stat, but I heard that stat and I'm just like. Done. Like obviously at some point everyone becomes a draftable player, not Tom Brady. Everyone but Tom Brady becomes a draftable player for me. I won't go into it. Wide receivers. Cortland Sutton, he is going an entire round now after Jerry Jeudy. What is going on with that? I don't know. I don't get it, but Jerry Jeudy, he's at the end of the 7th. I'm sorry. I don't get it, but Cortland Sutton is going at the end of the 7th. Yes, please. Jerry Jeudy, on the other hand, has been bumped all the way up to wide receiver 27, according to ADP, or of course, use Fantasy Football Calculator for that.
Just right outside wide receiver 2. Good Lord.
Yeah, and he's going into 609. He is my wide receiver 36, and Chris is 32. And every time I look at my rankings, I adjust them, and that's a little too rich for me.
No, I'm done.
KJ Hamler, he probably shouldn't be drafted. He is the wide receiver 3 in Denver, but he at some point he could easily end up being a waiver wire target, especially if either Jeudy or Sutton both miss some time this year. Hopefully not. We don't root for injuries for anyone, except for Tom Brady. On to Noah Fant. Go Hawks again. My tight end 6 and Chris's tight end 9. I probably have him a little too high, but he is a really great pure patch catching tight end, and that's kind of what you want on your fantasy squad anyway. So Noah Fant, look for him. And I'm sorry, and I'll even go a little bit further than my notes, is that he played in 15 out of 16 games last year, and he was hobbled by an ankle injury, and I believe it was like a hamstring as well. And he still played 15 out of 16 games.
Dinged up.
So, I had more stats on him, and I think he ended up as like tight end 13, but he easily could have hit like tight end 5 or something like that. Anyways,
that margin is very.
I know what's going on.
low.
Oh, I just spoiled my factor fantasy is what I did.
Oh.
Oops. Moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs here. Patrick Mahomes. He's Pat Mahomes. I'm not going to say anymore. Let's move on to the running backs for the Chiefs. CEH was a consensus top 10 pick in 2020, but he is now my RB11, which means I expect a surge in production. I like it. Darrell Williams, don't care. Jerick McKinnon, just going to say a little what he is. There was a little camp buzz around McKinnon, and maybe he's make a lax pick your draft kind of flyer kind of guy. Other than that, not really and much of anything else. Tyreek Hill, he is arguably the wide receiver one of most people's cheat sheets. He's my wide receiver 2 behind Devontae Adams. Tyreek Hill's good. Enough said. Mecole Hardman, I think it's the old it's time for Mecole Hardman to either poo or get off the pot. I'm not a believer. But he has a chance with Sammy Watkins finally gone. Byron Pringle falls in that category of a real late, last pick of the draft, stab in the dark.
Robinson, what's his name? And the Robinson guy still there, or did he leave?
I think he's beginning. I think he's either injured or buried on the depth chart.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To your point, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's just like Patrick Mahomes is good, and it's outside of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, someone's going to get some sort of production. It can't go all to those two
week to week. Yeah,
probably not.
It's so hard to predict. Yeah. I think it is what it is.
Kelce, he's the tight end one according to literally everyone. I think he's in the final year of his mega elite production, but until the wheels fall off, man, ride that pony one more time. I think next year I'm out on Travis Kelce. He's going to be 32, 33 next year. So let's go on to the Las Vegas Raiders. I actually got that one right. Derek Carr, Derek Carr, including this year, is a quarterback I've never even considered drafting, and nor will I this year either. I know I just repeated myself, but I did it anyways. Josh Jacobs. Talking about guys I want to stay away from, Josh Jacobs is one of those guys. I think overall, I feel like he hasn't lived up to the hype surrounding him, once he was drafted to the Raiders. And is that a result of the coaching staff with John Gruden and such? Or is that just not him being able to really reach for his potential? I don't know. I think it's probably a lot of column A and a little column B.
The Raiders are horrible at drafting.
Yeah. And also with Kenyon Drake, he is in town now. He could be the reception guy, and also could be a touchdown vulture because Josh Jacobs hasn't been very good in short yardage touchdown runs. He's converting 25%, whereas Drake was doing 50% last year. Also going to contribute that to Fantasy Football Weekly as well. Yep. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your work. I wish I had time to do the research that you did. On to the wide receivers. A whole lot of guys that I'm not going to draft. Henry Ruggs should have drafted CeeDee Lamb, Raiders. Brian Edwards, reports are that he has not been on the good side, but he has secured the wide receiver 2 spot. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I'm sorry. I was chuckling at your should have drafted CD comment. That's exactly where my thought process went with my previous comment about they're just not good at drafting.
Yeah, exactly.
Derek Carr could have been so much better.
Yeah, exactly. They've squandered Derek Carr like the Texans did with his brother David Carr.
Amen.
That guy was an Iron Man. He took so many punishing hits. It was ridiculous. On to Renfro. Maybe the wide receiver out of these three that maybe deserves some consideration, especially as a waiver wire pickup. Mainly just because with a sketchy offensive line, Hunter Renfro could be the benefit of all these short passes. but I'm not
That
drafting
card
him or
excels
any of
at.
the other two, so whatever. Darren Waller, the real wide receiver one for the Raiders.
Thank you. Yeah.
But he's officially listed as tight end, so he's the number 2 tight end in fantasy this season, or at least that's how he's getting drafted. On to the Chargers. Let's start with our guy from last year, Justin Herbert. I love you, Herbie, but you're going really early as a quarterback 6.
Getting too rich.
In the early 6th, yeah. I'm not drafting a quarterback then, especially a guy who doesn't have any wheels.
Early 6th now? Wow.
Yeah.
Continue.
I mean, could he be the next Peyton Manning?
Oh, you're right.
I doubt it, but
He's
there's
the
potential
QB6
there, I
at
guess. He's got the
601.
weapons.
I didn't
Anyways.
realize that. That's a shame.
Here's the thing.
It was fun.
Austin Eckler, he's my RB6, and Chris is RB8. And he's actually really like my RB 9 now. But we both love Eckler, and I just don't like hearing that Joshua Kelly and Larry Roundtree are looking to maybe be getting goal line work.
Pop up. Yep.
Here is the thing: if you do want to handcuff Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson is the guy to go with. The other guys are just short yardage, bruisers. Wide receivers, it's Keenan Allen. Chris is extremely biased towards Keenan Allen. I know he loves him, and I share a little bit of that love. Don't get me wrong.
I could stand to come down a slot or two, but go
ahead.
No,
it's fine. No, I'm not. I'm not besmirching you at all. I'm just stating your love for Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I do.
He is definitely Herbie's go-to target last season with 147 targets, which by far, in a way, it was the most out of any pass catcher for the Chargers in 2020. Mike Evans seems to be permanently injured or have some sort of injury of some sort. I'm staying away.
Mike Williams, right? Okay, gotcha.
Did I say Mike Evans?
You might have.
Okay. My bad. Sorry. On to Tyrone Johnson. He's another guy. I mean, just add him to the list of complete Hail Mary pass of, his a greater than 0 chance of hitting as a late round draft pick.
He's ahead
sort
of
of thing. He's the kind of guy that you hold on to. If he does nothing in week 1, you drop him,
Is he ahead of
Jared
Josh
Cook?
Palmer?
I'm really not interested in him. He's more or less free. He's going to the very end of drafts. Boom. AFC done.
Folks.
We want to do a little factor fantasy though on just some things, some scenarios or whatever that we wanted to throw out there. Let's get us started here. I have my factor fantasy. Chris, you ready to play this game? You ready for this?
I'm ready. I was pulling mine up.
Are you though? Are you really?
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Yes, I'm ready.
Factor fantasy. Myles Gaskin ends up with more than 80% of the Dolphins' offensive snaps.
Oh, fantasy.
Last year, in the games that he played, he was only in on 69.7% of snaps when healthy. So I'm also going fantasy. I could see him hitting 75, but 80, that's a lot. What do you got for me?
He kind of started cold. I don't think he was the guy right away. And then, of course, injury, like you said. Let's go Ravens. Let's go recent news. Is Gus Edwards a top 15 fantasy back?
I'm glad you stuck with 15.
It's close. That's why I'm glad I stuck with 15. I felt like 18.
I'm glad you did. I'm really glad that you stuck with it. Off the top of my head, I want to say no.
I'm going to say fantasy also. Yep, I'm going to go with it.
I'm going to say fantasy.
I did look at some stats. I didn't end up typing him in the notes because they were his career is he's always been a backup, So it wasn't a whole lot to go off. Also college, it wasn't a whole lot to go off of. So I'm going off a little bit of projection here. Go ahead. I think you're up next.
We're sticking in the AFC East here. Damian Harris gets more than 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. 900 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Fact. I like it.
I also say fact, and I got a little stats to go with it. He only got 691 yards last season. I did mention earlier that he didn't play in the first 3 in the last 3 games, and Cam Newton was a touchdown vulture. This could easily happen.
Aboard.
What else you got?
I found, quick little side note. I found that his and Darrell Henderson's numbers real similar, just kind of that 700, high 600, 700 yards, just a couple years in the league, a little bit of injury. It was just real similar. Anyway, what do I got
well, up
for
until
you?
last season, Damian Harris never really played in the league. It's his third year last year, I think.
Second.
Second.
I was
Okay.
surprised too.
Yeah,
I
you're
saw,
right. You're
only
absolutely right.
2
It
years.
is
I
his
was
second.
surprised.
But he was more or less
So,
injured his first year.
yeah, it was more.
And
of a,
Belichick never played him for whatever reason,
he was
despite
more or
using a
less
third round
redshirt.
pick on him.
I think
Leave
he's
it to
cashed
Bill
him.
Belichick to use a third round pick on a guy that he never uses.
Never uses. Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Bengals factor fantasy. Chase.
Okay.
Jamar Chase has a better rookie season than Higgins did.
I'm gonna go fantasy.
I agree. I make the note here. It says just look at Higgins' rookie numbers. I touched on it earlier. Over 900 yards. Started 14 games, played 16. That's saying something as a rookie with really no offseason.
Okay, I got a couple more. Are you tapped out, or do you want?
I think I got one more, but please go
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna go with this. Noah Fant finishes as a top 5 tight end. Top 5. I already kind of alluded to this, but I kind of leaked that out a
Given
little early.
Pitts, for myself, given Pitts and Tanyan, I'm going to go
Yeah.
fantasy.
Okay, so last year I said, or earlier I said that last year he finished as a tight end 12. I was absolutely right about that. He played in all but one game. We went over a lot of this. And did you know that he was 22.5 points away from being the tight end 5? And that's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
He was only 8.5 points away from finishing as a tight end 8, which is only 4 spots above him. So, and if Fant can hit 10 fantasy points per game, he'll definitely get there as a tight end 5. It's not going to take much to be tight end 5. So, at least according to last year's numbers, which can vary year to year, but I think he can do it. I know it's a bit of a stretch and it's bold, but I'm saying fact.
Okay. Last one I got. James Robinson is going to have a better fantasy year than he did last year. Factor fantasy.
As far as points scored, points per game, or fantasy finish as far as running backs?
I would say both or either or. Given health, total fantasy
Pick
points,
one.
if fantasy points per game.
Not looking it up, I'm going to say, and you said better. I'm going to say fantasy because he'll either finish just at the right point or worse.
I don't have a ton of stats to back this one up, but I am going to go with the fact that he was a rookie last year. I don't know if did he come into week 1 as the starter? He might have. But he did. He had a abbreviated or non-existent offseason. He was a rookie. His conditioning is going to be better. And Etienne's out of the way. I think there's going to be a lot of spreading the ball out. I'm not saying James
Better
Robinson
quarterback play.
Better quarterback play. Amen. So, yeah, I absolutely think he's going to have a better year. Okay. In fact, I've been the detractor against James Robinson.
I'm not going to fight you on that one at all.
This is one of those pluses, negatives, whatever you want to call it, the Etienne injury. Like, what a shame, but it is flip-flop my opinion on Robinson for the most part.
Okay. I got a couple more here, and some of them are real quick. I got like 3 more. 2 out of the 3 are based on tight ends, or actually I have 4 more. But let's go with Jonnu Smith gets more than 700 yards, factor fantasy. I'm sorry, 700 receiving yards.
Right. I'll go fact. Surely they're going to feature him some.
I want to say fantasy. He's never had more than like 470 receiving yards.
I kind of forgot that. We touched on that a couple weeks ago, actually. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Good
I'm
call.
going fantasy on that one.
All right.
Another one, tight end related. I got a lot of tight end ones. I didn't do that on purpose. I'm now realizing the pattern here. This one's real quick. The next 2 are real quick. Age finally catches up to Travis Kelce, and he finishes outside the top 5 tight ends. And that one could be. I'm not going to say based on injury, but I mean it's just kind of not quite the same guy that he was.
Happen, yeah, I'm gonna go fantasy.
I also say fantasy. It's like if and I also have written down here if the Chiefs had more legit weapons that weren't Tyreek Hill and Travis
if you
Kelce,
had a third name in that passing attack that I could hang my hat on, we'd be talking about a different story. Like if Sammy Watkins would have turned his career around a year and a half ago or whatever, and he stuck around, or
3 years ago,
they drafted a guy or what have you. But no, we're not worried about Mr.
Yeah, say
Pringle
somehow
and
DK
Robinson.
Metcalf went to the Chiefs
Right.
instead of Mecole
or
Hardman or
Lockett.
whatever.
Oh my God, that's a lot of speed. Okay, anyway.
That's a lot of size and speed right there too. Anyways, on to Darren Waller usurps Travis Kelce as the #1 fantasy tight end this season.
Now I'm going to go fact.
Really?
I'm not going to move him for my tight end one spot, and I would never convince anybody to not draft him in the end of the first, beginning of the second, because I still think he finishes as a top 3 tight end, and he's one of the most secure picks you can have with positional advantage. But I am very skeptical, or not skeptical, very positive about Waller's arc of his career right now. Like, it's just that off. I almost, for the sake of time, I didn't interrupt you when you talked Raiders and Waller earlier, but that offense is absolutely run through that guy. The whole offense is through that guy. Like, the amount of targets that he gets is historical for a tight end. So yeah. It could absolutely happen.
I am going to say, so here's the fact that I have is that Waller was only 35.2 points away from being the tight end one. It's actually 35.3, to actually take over the tight end one spot.
Kelce had an amazing season.
And wait, not done. And the only thing I have left to say is that, like, I think this year, because Kelce is a year older now, and, I'm sure he's still built like, a Greek god and everything, but I just think that maybe that gap narrows just a little bit. Maybe it turns into like Kelce, but only by 20 points instead of that 35.3. I got one more quick one.
Go ahead.
Austin Eckler top 700 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns.
I know he hasn't done it before, or at least I assume he hasn't off the top of my head. I'm going to go fact, though, because I think there's going to be a bit more of an emphasis to feature him in the ground game. Not necessarily in the red zone, but get him a little bit more touches on the ground as opposed to...
This one caused me to lower Austin Eckler. He has never topped 557 rushing yards. He's never had more than... I didn't write this down, but I think it's never more than 160 rushing attempts. He's never had more than 3 rushing touchdowns. The 3 rushing touchdowns is a fact. It's all receiving work, and that's great. Like, it's great. Like, we go on half PPR scoring, and if you're doing full PPR, that's great.
I'm sorry, what was your touchdown stipulation? 5?
Yes, 5 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, maybe I should have taken that into account. I feel much better about 700 yards. I really do. Just because a little bit of pushback, a little bit of scuttlebutt we've been hearing about the goal line work and where it may go. Like, I think both me and you can admit we're a little worried about that. But going back to your 700 yards thing, I feel much more confident about saying that is a fact, and maybe not the TDs.
Okay.
But that's not why we're drafting Eckler, right? But I don't blame you for moving him a little bit. Yep.
That's been the AFC, folks. We're going to have part 2 coming up in probably several hours, if not, a dozen hours after this one comes out on YouTube
today.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be watching them probably back to back anyways.
You're getting coffee, or taking your lunch.
Or if you do watch us in YouTube format, you can also check us out in podcast format, because we distribute podcasts where podcasts are available. Henry, behind your local Jack in the Box, also has our podcast available. You can get it from him. We encourage you not to, because Henry's a little sketchy. Trust me, I've seen him. I've dealt with him. He hasn't showered in like a week, or he's very active.
You're better off clicking on the link below.
Just click on the link. If you do check us out in podcast format and you have seen Henry, I'm sorry, but you can also look at whip your phone out. Go to YouTube and check out the Amazing Fantasy Football YouTube channel, where on Sundays we do a stream. We have been streaming mock drafts, but this Sunday we are going to be streaming a live draft, our Friends with Benefits League. It will be this Sunday. It is, I believe we'll probably start the stream at like noon or 12:30, but the draft starts at 1. We're going to maybe go through some last minute news real quick. We haven't discussed off air. Maybe we'll do that in between shows of whether we're going to do in chat or whatever. But anyways, so yeah, the stream every Sunday. a week from this coming Sunday, we will have injury updates, last minute injury updates, lineup advice. You can tune in, you can join in the chat, you can ask us some last minute lineup things. Just because you drafted Antonio Brown after DJ Chark doesn't mean you necessarily are going to start. This is a bad example because Antonio Brown plays on Thursday. But you get my drift. Just because you drafted, DJ Chark and Michael Gallup, maybe Michael Gallup's the better one, the player with the high rating. Who knows? Hard to say. Still a bad example because they play in the same game, but you get my point. You can question us with lineup questions.
Who to start, who to sit, injury updates.
We're entering this because Josh is going nowhere with this description.
Coffee with Chris and Josh. Like, share, subscribe.
So until next episode, which is State of the Union NFC edition.